Okay, let's get started. I am Johanna Cronin. I'm the CMO at Start Engine, and I'm here with Chris Guimond, the founder and CEO of Modern Mill. For anyone who doesn't know, Modern Mill is turning upcycled rice hulls into ACRE, a sustainable product that looks and feels like wood, but is 100% tree-free. So, Chris, for a lot of people who are watching this is a totally new concept. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how Modern Mill got started?
Sure. Happy to be here and thank you for having me. Um, so high level, how did we get started? There was ultimately a technology that we came across probably around 2018 that I felt was underutilized, and essentially knew that if we took that sort of understanding on a formulaic basis, meaning taking rice hulls with some other materials and sort of morph it into something that is more scalable and sort of addresses kind of I think what the world needs, and if we think about what does the world need, we have a problem with cutting down trees, right? And so if you think about what is the core of what we're doing, we are taking a rice husk, which is a throwaway agricultural product. We're mixing it with some other ingredients. We're creating a product that looks and feels like wood, and we're preventing the need to cut down that tree, particularly old growth trees. So that's sort of the premise of what it is. So in recognizing that this formula and this product can address that, I knew there was an opportunity to really scale and grow a company, right? And to really get out into a large addressable market. And if you think about what is that market: siding, decking, trim, sheets, certain profiles like edge and center bead, V-groove, nickel gap, those types of typical profiles that are used in the building materials industry, that oftentimes people are cutting down old growth trees to create those profiles. Or the other world is there have been composite materials, which is, let's take something that can potentially replace that wood idea, but there's a big compromise in that, right? In that it could look and feel not like wood. So whether it's plastic or cement or something else. So ACRE by Modern Mill. ACRE is our brand. So ACRE by Modern Mill, and Modern Mill because we're a modern take on a sawmill. So don't cut down the tree, upcycle the rice hull, make a product that looks and feels like wood. Now we're in the Modern Mill. And I can walk you through a little bit later of how that works, but essentially do that. And now we have the best of both worlds. You have something with the workability, warmth, and beauty of wood, but the features and benefits of why somebody would want a composite, right? Meaning you don't have to maintenance it. It's not going to absorb moisture, that type of thing. In terms of my background, I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in plastics engineering. So I've been, around this for a long time. I would say even all the way back to my academic years, I was always fascinated with recycling of materials, reusing of materials, and sort of this technology and this idea is the best of all those worlds. We're 100% recyclable, we're zero waste, and we're upcycling a throwaway agricultural product and using it to make something that's in super high demand.
That's amazing. And I think so there's a lot, I want to unpack inside of that. And I think one piece of it is you spoke a bit about how ACRE is made, upcycled rice hulls. But I think a lot of people are like, I don't know what upcycled rice hulls mean. I don't know what a rice hull is. So could you kind of talk it through as if we're hearing about this for the first time? How is this made? And then what is the actual tangible product? What does it feel like? What does it look like?
Sure. So in the US, we're a huge producer of rice. So if you think about in where do we produce rice? Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, California. Those are your main rice producing states, with one or two more. So those are the climates in where rice grows. And then at the farm level, where the farmer is growing the rice, where that agricultural product is being produced at the farm, there is what's called rough rice, which is the rice husk or hull. Those words are interchangeable, which protects the rice itself, the rice grain that we eat. So then that generally gets aggregated at a rice mill. And what's the point of that rice mill? They're separating the rice hull from the rice itself, and then they package that for whatever it may be. We export a lot of rice in this country to other countries. We package it for our own use here in this country for obvious, food reasons. But that rice husk or hull is thrown away. There's some small uses for it, but a good majority of them are just thrown away, right? And that if you just leave that to decompose, turns to CH4, methane gas, greenhouse gas. So there's a benefit of us taking that rice husk and using it in our product. So what we're also doing in that process, if you think about what is a rice husk or what is a rice hull, what's the job of that? To keep the rice dry when it grows, prevent pests and things like that from attacking the crop, right? So there's those benefits. We're levering those benefits as we bring that material into our formula. So if you think about then what does ACRE by Modern Mill offer for benefits? It's water resistant, right? It doesn't absorb moisture. It's not going to rot. It's not going to splinter. It's not going to crack. There's pests aren't going to touch it, so termites aren't going to touch it. So we're levering those properties that the rice hull or rice husk offers the rice when it grows. So that's sort of the landscape of that. Oftentimes people will say, well, can you get rice hulls, and is it expensive? Is it easy? So that starts to get to why is the manufacturing plant located in Mississippi?
Right.
We want to be close to the rice hulls, right? And so where we buy our rice hulls from, there's a rice mill that generally aggregates them from a lot of rice farms, local Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas is generally where they aggregate from. And then at that level, they're taking the rice, producing it for different uses, right? Like I said, either exporting or using it here. And then those rice hulls, we then ship them via truck. And if you think about what a rice hull looks like, it's pretty fluffy. So it means it doesn't ship very heavy. And that's why you want to be located somewhere close to where the rice is produced. Otherwise, you're going to be shipping air if we decided to put a plant up in New England or somewhere else, right? So you want to be close to where the rice hulls are, which is ultimately where the rice grows. And then you also want to be where the petrochemical landscape is, right? Because we have a petrochemical component in this. So we take the rice hulls, we combine it with another material, and also we combine it with a number of other additives. And so where we're located is where the majority of those raw materials are from, the petrochemical ingredient, plus the rice hulls, plus everything else that we add in, the calcium carbonate, other additives. And then we make that compound at Modern Mill. And then that compound then goes through an extrusion process. So, and if, I'm probably jumping ahead here, but I'll just go to.
I just want to quickly say, because I think people are hearing you talk about the actual mill itself, and it's one thing to hear about it, but if anyone who's watching wants to go to Start Engine to Modern Mill's page, it's pretty amazing. This is like a massive facility that is manufacturing this product. And I love that the name is Modern Mill because it really is that. And it's like, it has all of the sort of feeling of a modern mill producing wood, but instead it's actually producing this totally novel product. So I feel like the visual just goes a long way. And so anyone who's watching this who's like, what do they mean, this mill that's producing rice hulls? I think that's a great place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're located in Fernwood, Mississippi, which is about an hour from New Orleans. So figure if you're at the New Orleans airport, hour and 20 minutes to get out to our manufacturing facility. It's in a great location in terms of we have great resources there for people. We have ports where we can import and export from. We have power where the cost for electricity is very reasonable for a manufacturing operation. And we have the petrochemical landscape, as I said earlier. And then obviously on top of all that, you have the rice hulls which grow there. So that's sort of the main reason for being in that general area. It's about 200,000-ish square feet, state-of-the-art manufacturing facility that we've set up. There's a lot going on. We run 24/7, and I just generally describe this as a 4-step process, which is what I was starting to get into. So step 1 is we bring in the rice husks or rice hulls. We grind those, then we bring it to step 2, which is mix a compound. And then in that compound, that's where we add those other ingredients. Step 3 is we take that compound that we've mixed now and run it through an extrusion process. What does that extrusion process look like? We're extruding a sheet. So a sheet comes out of the extruder, and we can run any thickness from 1/4 inch up to 1 inch is generally what we run today. We could potentially go a little bit thicker than that. And then it's a 4-foot wide sheet. So as it's coming out of the extruder, it's 4 foot wide by whatever thickness that we're happen to be running at that time. And then the length is whatever length we want to cut it at. So we could cut it at 8 foot, 10 foot, 20 foot. It's a continuous extrusion process. Once we cut that length, now you have your sheet, right? That's like our first SKU is a sheet that we make. And that's where the name Modern Mill comes from. Don't cut down the tree, upcycle the rice hull, make that sheet or that board through that extrusion process. And now so first step, grind the rice hulls. Second step, mix the compound. Third step, extrude the board. Fourth step is now we're really in the modern mill, modern take on a sawmill. So we have very traditional sawmill equipment, right? We have sanders, we have gang ripsaws, we have molders. So we take that sheet and then we run it through the modern mill where we add what we call an ACRE grain to it. That ACRE grain, it gives it a vertical grain that can replicate different types of hardwoods. So if you think about cedar, it's got a beautiful vertical grain. If you think about mahogany, ipe, materials like that with those vertical grains, that's what we're replicating, right? So the ACRE grain is really what allows all the first part of the major feature and benefit of our product, which is sustainability. You can apply a stain to this and it looks like any of those types of woods without a compromise, because it doesn't feel like plastic because of the rice hulls, doesn't break. There's a bunch of other features and benefits, but that first and major sort of feature and benefit we add is what we call the ACRE grain. That's that grain that gives you a beautiful vertical grain that can truly replace wood. And that's where I feel like when you start to think about solving the deforestation issue, you have to do that on a level of supply demand economics. And that's what we've done. We've created a product that's as good or better than that tree that would have been cut down. And if you do that, you can really now start to make a big difference.
Right. It has basically the look and feel of wood, but it has benefits that wood does not have.
Yeah, it's not going to. So that's a great point. So after you stain it, if you stain wood and you put it outside a year later, I'm sure most people have direct experience with this. You're going to be out scraping and repainting or having to restain it or redo it one way or the other. ACRE, because it's not absorbing moisture at the substrate level, meaning the material itself doesn't absorb moisture. So there's no moisture that gets in between the coating and the ACRE itself. So if that failure isn't happening because there is no moisture in between the coating and the substrate material, you're not going to have that chipping and rotting and all the other things that start to happen, but particularly the coating failure, right? So that's like the main feature and benefit is that once you have this beautiful ACRE grain, you apply this stain, now you put it on the side of your house, it can literally look like vertical grain cedar, almost to where people can't tell the difference, or even looks better to some extent, because some of the cedar that we get today, because it's through this cutting down of cedar trees, and same thing with redwoods. Like if you talk to most builders, they're going to tell you the quality of those types of woods that you get today isn't what they were 20 or 30 years ago, right? Because we're trying to regrow old growth stuff, which is very hard to do. So you need an alternative. What's the alternative? We're the alternative, right? It's a product that looks and feels just like what you were cutting down. You can apply that stain, you can put it on your house, and now it's not going to, the coating's not going to fail, so it's not going to chip, it's not going to crack, it's not going to, you're not going to have to scrape and repaint. But there's other features and benefits, right? The termites aren't going to touch it, right? That's another huge one. So, and then we can talk there on and on. Fire ratings, there's all kinds of other features and benefits, but that's really where it all starts.
That's really incredible. And I also think one of the things that has stood out so much to me upon learning about Modern Mill is the major partnerships you guys have formed. So I know you've worked with companies like Heineken and Chipotle. How did those partnerships come about? How have they helped you grow since forming them?
Yeah, I just think there's many large brands right now where they want to showcase their commitment to sustainability, right? And if you think about everything that we just talked about, Modern Mill is a perfect choice for a lot of large brands to be able to use our product and talk about their commitment to sustainability one way or the other, right? So what did Heineken do? They built this huge outdoor exterior bar. They call it the Heineken Greener Bar, that's brought around to the Formula One events, right? And that's an opportunity for Heineken to showcase their commitment to sustainability. They could have used a lot of materials. They chose ours, and I think what we talk about, everything we've been talking about here, is in line probably with a lot of their sustainability principles as well. And just from a practical sense, now that greener bar has been built, and because it's not going to rot, not going to rust, not going to splinter, not going to crack, they can take it from event to event to event, not having to keep going and rebuy it. So there's so many different commitments to sustainability. That would be a direct one for them in that case. But I would also say that they're looking at what Modern Mill is talking about doing, which is addressing deforestation, upcycling rice husks, which is a throwaway agricultural product, which definitely is beneficial to the agriculture industry in the United States. There's the circular economy aspect, and if we pivot to, say, Chipotle, right? They're a restaurant that serves rice. Okay, well, we are a company that uses that throwaway agricultural product to the very thing that they serve. Now you can start to bring in this idea of circular economy. We serve rice. Modern Mill upcycles the rice hulls, makes a product that looks and feels like wood, sends it back to those stores, and we can use it for interior wall paneling. We could use it for artwork. We could use it for exterior shiplap siding to their stores, but it becomes a circular economy story that you could talk about. A lot of other companies might just be interested in, like I said, the deforestation, the zero waste manufacturing, right? We didn't get to talk about this, but everything we produce at Modern Mill in terms of scrap gets reground and put back into the process. So it's not like if at a sawmill you would be generating sawdust. That sawdust can't go back into making the next board. That's going to get sold off into something else, right? So what we do is any scrap that we make or acre dust that we make through the cutting process, we bring that back in. So we're a zero waste manufacturing facility. So a lot of brands love that aspect. They love the circularity of what we're doing. They love the deforestation. They love the upcycling of the rice husks. Perhaps they love that we're potentially a lighter weight than some of these other woods. And if you're shipping around a lighter weight, well, there's better fuel efficiencies when you're shipping that around on the truck. So I always talk about this in these sort of pillars of sustainability. There's a lot of them, but that definitely attracts some of these larger brands. Another example would have been this year at Coachella, Red Bull's VVIP suite. They bought a bunch of our material. They used it to build out this incredible VVIP suite, and imagine the exposure that got. But I would say, just in a general sense, it's a commitment to sustainability that consumers of these brands want to see, right? And that's what you see. And everybody on their website, they've got a sustainability section. You can go and you can read about it. So Modern Mill is like that perfect story. We're doing real things in the world, like in terms of like we're really making a product. Like this is, you can come down, you can see it, you can put it on the side of your house, you can feel it, you can be in contact with it every day. Or like when people were going into that Red Bull VVIP suite, they're standing on it. What a conversation that is. Wow, this came from rice hulls. Like look at your point earlier. A lot of people say, I didn't even know we grew rice in this country, right? We did. Then I didn't know how much. I certainly didn't know all these rice hulls were being generated as agricultural waste that Modern Mill is taking and upcycling and using. So there's just an incredible story, and that's sort of why I think a lot of these brand partnerships have become available, and more to come, right? Think of the big hotel groups, all these brands, right? We're already talking to a lot of them and working with a lot of them, and we're working on R&D, and there's a bunch of things that are coming out with big brands that could potentially use our product in their developments that they're doing. But everybody has a commitment of some level to using sustainable products, and we just really fit that bill.
And I think what's great is you have this combination of sustainability. And so brands are interested in talking about that as something that sort of matches their ethos or one of their goals. But then you also have the very tangible, practical element of like, this is going to perform better than wood. It doesn't have a lot of problems of wood. It's, it's made in the US. That is a big difference. So it's like you have these kind of two arms, one that's more ideology focused and one that's more practical, but both are working together.
100%. And I think that's a huge piece now too, is that as we continue to grow as a company and the customers that we serve, they feel good knowing that we've created, all these jobs in the US, right? Like all of our raw materials are coming from the US, and a small amount that we may still be importing, we have alternatives, and we're working towards being, 100% sourced. Right now, we've got the majority of our ingredients coming all from the US. Like I said, petrochemicals from the US, the rice hulls from the US, most of the additives. But the opportunity of building out this plant and creating these jobs and resurging manufacturing, right? That's something that's very, very important, right, for this country, is to be able to make our own stuff. I don't know who said it, but somebody said, if you don't make stuff, you don't have stuff, right? And like it's kind of it's simple, but it's true, right? We need to make stuff, and that's what we're doing. We're making an amazing quality product, and people resonate with what we're making. And then the culture and the employees and the jobs that we created, the great quality jobs that we've created, people resonate with that. And I would say our customers especially, they feel good knowing that they can come down and visit us or talk to us, or they can get me on the phone, right? We're here, we're not going anywhere. We support, if there's some new development project and they want to look at a new product, like we're right here. We have an R&D team. We can get together, we can product test, we can collaborate together and come out with new ideas and really be innovative in our thought process, versus just, this isn't just like importing a material from somewhere and just slinging it around. We're making something that there's real value to it, and people are resonating with that message.
Yeah, that's great. Could you also maybe give us a little bit of a quick snapshot on where are you in terms of distribution? How has that changed over the last few years, and funding, which I'm sure is a big part of growing distribution?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're a high growth company, right? So if you think about what we're doing, it's a very sizable manufacturing facility down in Mississippi. We can do a lot of revenue out of that facility at full tilt. So what we've done at the beginning was invested in really building out the facility to be able to suit the needs of what we feel the addressable market that we can take on is. Um, so so it's set up the facility, and then everything that goes into making the products. So we have to develop the products. And if you just think about a common one, our shiplap siding, right? We have to figure out how to make that. What widths are we making it in? What lengths are we making it in? What testing do we need to go through? And like for that in particular, we wanted to do a Miami-Dade screw and nail pull test to replicate a category 4 wind load, so that if
Well,
somebody puts it up on the side of a wall, it's not going to get torn off if a category 4 blows through. So we have that credential. We've developed the wildland urban interface WUI. It's called WUI. That's the California fire rating. So now our siding product can be used in high fire prone areas, like in rebuild of Palisades or whatever, or Altadena, these kind of places that need that. So those are the main credentials that we've developed up to this point. But yeah, so as time rolls on, we're going to continue to look at different demands for what really is out there and what's required, and we'll continue to evolve those SKUs and develop the material, develop all the products that we might need. But the volume ones for sure, where we're at, is trim, siding, sheets. Sheets could be used for like board and batten, like for a siding install. It could be used. Sheets could actually be used for like interiors of kitchen cabinets, which we have builders that are using it for that. Certainly exterior kitchens, with this outdoor living area now, people are really sort of looking at that. So in order to do all that, of course, it means we're high growth. We have a big plant, and we want to get sales rolled out. So what we've done up to this point is developed. Modern mill manufacturer sells a two-step distributor, sells a stocking dealer. Ultimately is where a builder or an architect or homeowner could go to that stocking dealer and buy it. You could also call that a retailer. So we've developed that nationally now, right? So New England is a big market for us, the Northeast in general, Long Island, New York, Mid-Atlantic, down into Florida, Midwest, and then mountain regions, Utah, Colorado, and then into the Pacific Northwest, and then the West in general, in California. So we have good coverage throughout most of those areas, and really other areas now. They're some of the markets that weren't as developed, we're now really starting to get traction of bringing on distributors and dealers in those markets, so that ACRE really becomes available. So if a builder wants to get it, they'll be able to go to a dealer, and they should have it in their stocking program, and they could go and buy it. And that's been the goal, is to bring on distributors, dealers, and then ultimately create builder pull-through. So what do we want to do? We want to get builders and homeowners excited to say, I want ACRE Modern Mill Shiplap on my house, and then that builder will go to that dealer, the dealer goes to the distributor, and then that keeps the business. That's the typical LBM, lumber building materials channel, two-step channel that we currently is our main go-to-market strategy. And then there's a number of other go-to-market strategies that we could talk about, but that's the main one that we're doing right now. In terms of funds, we've raised a significant amount of funds over really since the inception of the company. I believe we've raised 84, and then we've just crossed 2 on the start engine round. So we're at like 86 million in equity raised, and yeah, our goal is to continue to raise some funds so that we can continue to expand sales, marketing, and our reach, right? So we really want people to have the awareness that we exist, and that they know that what is the product, how can it be used, where can it be used, and then the availability, making sure that it's available at those retail locations so that builders and architects and homeowners have access to it.
Well, and I've said this to you before, but I think what is so exciting about Modern Mill is it's a rare product where, in a short description, people are like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. That's amazing. How can I see it? How can I feel it? How can I use it on my house? And, most brand companies would kill for that, to have something that is like almost like a sells itself. And so obviously the distribution, the growth, the need for capital to do that is great, but you already have this core product that is working so well for you, which is really exceptional.
Once I always say, like, and all of our sales team says the same thing. Once we get it into the hands of a builder, that builder, once they use it, they go, wow, this drops like sawdust. We have a clean air certification. There's no VOCs. This is an amazing product to work with. It's very safe. It cuts like wood. It doesn't melt on your blade when you run a jigsaw through it. You can heat it and you can bend it, right? You can do so much with it. And I think on This Old House, they did a segment where they were like heating and doing a folded corner, which is really amazing. And when people see like some of those features and benefits of working with it, and then they like, wait, and then I can stain it too. It doesn't have to be just a piece of white plastic. Yeah, you can stain it, you can paint it. If you want it white, paint it white. You even paint it white, you still see that beautiful grain shining through the white. So that gives this feeling of, and that's we give our AIA certification in biophilic design, right? The architects love that aspect of it. But that's a big part of how people are developing these days, is to really bring in that biophilic nature, right? And that rice hull has such that natural aspect to it that it really just it's amazing when people understand that piece and are able to incorporate that into their design, especially like I said before, with indoor outdoor living, or even if it's just on the outside of on the side of your house, right? A lot of people have decks on the side of their house, like I do. When I turn around, I'm always touching the siding material because it just feels amazing to touch, right? And into that's that biophilic nature of it. But yeah, it's an amazing product, and we always say, like, once a builder or somebody that likes to work with wood, once they touch that, they're like, wow, this is tough for me to actually use anything else because it's so easy to work with. You don't end up with dust all over your clothes, right? We don't have that same static cling that a lot of composites might have. Drops like sawdust, super easy to cut. Like I talked to the people who built out the Heineken Greener bar, and they're like, this was amazing. We just ran it through our CNC. It CNC'd amazing. It molded amazing. Like, so the workability of it is a huge aspect. And then of course you factor in all the other aspects. Don't have to maintenance it now. Don't have to worry about going out 2 years later and scraping and repainting.
Yeah.
Beautiful vertical grain. You can get something where it really mimics that look and beauty of wood. It really is fitting a big need that the market has.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think anyone that has a deck or patio furniture even that is made of wood has seen what happens with weather and has seen it warp, but you want to have that look and feel. And so to be able to have that benefit, but also have, something that's more sustainable is pretty incredible. And then I want to touch on, obviously the reason that you and I have connected is because Modern Mill is currently raising capital through Start Engine. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about why you decided to raise through equity crowdfunding. You've obviously raised over $80 million in other means. Why did you decide to open this up to, general public?
Yeah, I think it brings a different level of awareness, right? And through this campaign, we've gotten so many different inbounds from people who didn't know about us. So I think that's a big one. There's been so many requests for people to be able to, they've asked us like, is there a way we can participate? So it's opened up that, and yeah, I think like us, Start Engine is a progressive opportunity, progressive company, and I like that. I like that there's a different way of doing things now, and it creates a different opportunity, a different audience, and I think the inbound opportunities that we get are also happen to be on the commercial side as well, which is great. So it creates this different level of awareness. But yeah, it's been amazing, and I think that where we look at ourselves as very innovative and progressive, I think Start Engine is aligned with that. So I think there was an alignment.
Yeah, and obviously there's a benefit of, you're doing marketing for the funding round, and it's also marketing your brand, which is very different than other types of capital raises, which is great.
Yeah.
And then I know you've sort of mentioned this, but I just want to, hear from you. How do you, like, with these funds and as you guys are growing, how do you plan to use the funds? And then also, where do you go from here? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're a high growth company, so it requires funds. So between Start Engine and potentially other means of raising capital, we need to put capital into the awareness, availability, and then the successful installations that builders would have, right? We always want to make sure that people go to our website, they understand the install guides. We've gone through extreme effort and making sure that we have a very robust install guide that people can understand. They use our right coatings. We want to continue to develop other credentials that may be required. So, but yeah, I would say awareness, availability, successful installs, and then just continuing to get out into a much larger market than what we're currently doing, right? If you think about what is Modern Mill at the end of the day, it is something that is addressing a very big need, and it's a massive addressable market. Siding in of itself, the opportunities are immense. And so we want to just continue to develop that.
That's awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. And then if you would like to learn more or invest in Modern Mill, you can find them on Start Engine. We have the link that's sort of scrolling below, so you can go there. And then if you have any questions that we didn't get to, feel free to leave them in comments on their page. So you can go, you can add a comment. Chris will follow up there. And thank you again, Chris. This was great to hear, and I love learning more about Modern Mill.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.